Okay, so I want another perspective on this from another point of view. I asked Bernie Goldberg to step up. He joins us from North Carolina. Obviously, you know that Mr. Goldberg is a Jewish American, and he's a purveyor of a very, very good website called bernardgoldberg.com. We regularly visit that website. And he can analyze this from a geopolitical point of view because he's been, I don't know, what do you win, 85 Emmys or something? You've been all over the world. You know what you're doing. And then from a media standpoint as well. So let's start with the geopolitics. You yourself, as a Jewish American, how do you feel today?
Well, this wasn't a 9/11. This was, as Tony Blinken said, 10 9/11s. If you compare the Jewish population to the U.S. population, this would have been equivalent of 40,000 Americans killed in one day. We're going to start to hear from liberals, not the crazy left, not the radical left. They don't, as you correctly said, Bill, they never liked Israel. I'm talking about, you will start to hear from the mainstream liberals that this was, if Israel goes into Gaza and civilians are killed, as they will be, that Israel is acting disproportionately. You'll hear that word, disproportionately. You'll even hear more about how Israel is violating international law. What is a proportional response to killing the equivalent of 40,000 people if it were in the United States? Is there any? Yeah, Israel should act disproportionately. And I hope we would act disproportionately if 40,000 Americans were killed in one day. So and let me make one other point before we move on. Bernie Sanders, you say, is Jewish. Yeah, he was born Jewish. But there are progressive Jewish people for whom Judaism is not their religion. Liberalism is their religion. Progressivism is their religion. Bernie Sanders is one of those people. And the Harvard idiots, as you mentioned, they are only proof that you can go to Harvard and still be a dummy, because that's what they are.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about over there. In the days forward, I always want to advance the story. You're going to have Israel going in, and you're going to see story after story after story about the suffering of the Palestinian people in Gaza.
Exactly.
Because that's going to happen. You're going to see it every day, every way. I remember back in 9/11 that Guantanamo Bay was a huge story. Remember that? And we had the left bleeding hearts over Guantanamo Bay. I would have done exactly the same thing as Bush did. I would have put them right in Guantanamo Bay. Would I have waterboarded them? Probably not. But I would have deprived them of a lot of things so that they would talk. And that whole CIA campaign was fairly successful. And again, I harken back to killing the killers. We got them. We got Al-Qaeda, and later we got ISIS, and we dismantled them. You cannot do that by having the UN Humanitarian Commission come in. All right? It's not happening. So I know what Israel is going to do. And I support it because that's the only thing they can do at this point in history. How do you see that?
I think you're absolutely right. And that's going forward. That's going to be the issue. Civilians are going to be killed. Children, innocent civilian children in Palestine, in Gaza, are going to be killed. And that's how Hamas wants it.
Right.
They know the power of images. They know the power, the public relations power of parading a dead 7-year-old girl, let's say, through Gaza City. And the cameras will be on it. And that's when the near universal support for Israel, again, forget about the radical left, the near universal support, including liberal support for Israel, that's when it's going to begin to shatter. That's when you're going to begin to hear words, as I said before, about Israel's overreacting. They don't need to do this.
Or bolstering the Harvard students that it's a fascist nation. So let's segue from that, because everybody knows what is likely to happen in the future about the media. So in the beginning of all this, MSNBC was the pro-Palestinian network, okay? They paraded on a bunch of people that said, oh, Israel is bad and Palestinians are, blah, 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 blah. You saw it. And the JDL, Jewish Defense League, went after them. NBC, Comcast, huge corporation. JDL went after them, warned them. And then it stopped. Comcast, NBC stopped it, correct?
Except for the fact that it's the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, went after Comcast.
I think the JDL did too. I saw a letter the JDL wrote. All right, but let's just say Jewish organizations went after them.
They had private meetings with the bigwigs at MSNBC, as I understand it. And in the flash of the blink of an eye, NBC came around. Now, and I've watched it recently. They're doing okay. Here's the thing. I wrote a book years ago called Bias, about liberal bias in the media. And I hope I know I got some credibility with you, Bill, and I hope I earned some credibility with the people in your audience. Because now I'm going to say that by and large, even the liberal media is getting this story right. There's a pro-Israeli slant to the stories, as it should.
They have to, though. They have to, because as I said, almost 70% of Americans are siding with Israel now. They have to. You sign your death warrant if you're not going to basically be fair in your analysis of this. But the point I wanted to make is that all of these networks are directed by corporations. They are told what to do and say.
Right.
We saw that with Fox News on the lawsuit that they lost. Every single one of them. Gone are the days when Bernie Goldberg and Bill O'Reilly, both at CBS News at the same time, you were much more successful than I was. Okay, but gone are the days when you have those kinds of people employed by the corporate media.